We are in there. YouTube and social media. Peep this out, guys. It's Ian K back again with another one for you. A Rogue One, a Star Wars story movie review for you guys. I got back from the premiere last night. I saw the first show, and I gotta say, absolutely amazing. I'm ready for action with my Star Wars mug ready to go here. I am really super excited to talk about this movie right now. I'm telling you right now, if you guys are fans of Star Wars, and I know virtually everyone on the planet is, you are gonna have a lot to love about this movie. Where to begin? Let me start off by saying this is not going to be a spoiler-filled review because I definitely don't want to ruin the experience for you guys. It really is very well done in terms of what you're going to see on the screen, just honoring the canon of the Star Wars universe the way that it was done. It literally is an event film. Every single Christmas from here on out, we're going to get a new Star Wars film. This one really has a lot riding on it, though. I can tell you, because of the episodes being what they are, episode 1 through 7 that we have now, these individual spin-off films that you're going to see Lucasfilm and Disney bring out are really going to expand the whole horizon in terms of what the future of Star Wars is going to be. But thankfully with this movie, we're seeing a little bit of what made the first movie what it is. We're going to see the actual stealing of the Death Star plans. You're going to see exactly what went into that. But it's expanded in such a way that literally it has so much heart, so much emotion, so much serious emotion, I should say. And I'm not even going to get into towards the end of the film because I definitely don't want to ruin that for you. But I'll give you little nuggets of little information to look forward to. But guys, this film sets the bar in terms of what future Star Wars spin-off films are going to be like. It honors what came before. It adds its own layer of new characters to the mix as well, and really just expands the universe in such a way that you can tell the fanboys that created this film, everyone who's directing movies nowadays pretty much grew up on the original Star Wars trilogy. So whether it's people in their 30s and 40s at this point now who grew up on Star Wars when they were kids, these are the people who are making these Star Wars films today. And it is all over the screen in terms of just the love and admiration for what you're going to see here. Whether it's practical effects, whether it's set design, whether it's just the sheer storytelling mechanism, the canon of just what you're going to be witnessing here, it is done in such a way that they're honoring it to the umpteenth degree. It's insane. Where to begin? Let me start off with the tone of the film. If any of you guys know Gareth Edwards, who is the director of the film, basically an indie filmmaker. He's done some pretty interesting works of his art in the past there. You may actually know him for directing the most recent Godzilla reboot that happened a couple of years ago. That was actually one of my favorite films because just the lead up to Godzilla, the way they did that, it was done very well. But with this film, literally he has just upped his street cred ridiculously. And the fact that the reviews right now have been off the chart is really something to be said about the testament of what the work that he did on this film here. Let me just start off with the tone. It is definitely a war movie. I'm going to tell you right now, everything has weight, everything has depth, everything has like sheer intensity when you see the battles on screen. And let me just real quick before I even get to it here, let me just tell you, the Stormtrooper outfits are completely useless. Okay, one blaster shot, they're out. You throw them against the wall, they're out. There's a lot of stuff going on where people are getting tossed around and stuff like that, and explosions are pretty much gone. Completely pointless. They might as well go in without the iconic headpiece and all that stuff in there. So, first off, it's great to see them, obviously. But I got to tell you, the best parts about this film are easily the new additions to the whole Empire Legion, or their infantry, the troops, the Death Troopers. I mean, it is just off the chart in terms of just the design. I mean, if they really incorporated some of these new designs into Episode 4 A New Hope, that would be just amazing. Hopefully, if they recut a special edition version and maybe incorporate some of the newer things into it, that would be pretty fantastic. So, but anyway, back to the tone. Straight war movie by far. It really feels like it is just you are in the trenches with these guys. When the plans finally get into place and you're in the battle sequences, and there are 3 or 4 major set pieces in this film, along with the huge battle that you guys have all seen in the trailers towards the end of the film on the beaches there on Scarif. It really is just mind-numbingly. The action is just insane. The explosions, just everything, the effects. You have to see the film in IMAX 3D. It is really done to such an insane degree of just craziness. I mean, the thing is, though, the 3D effects, they're subtle, so they're not like in your face just for the sake of being in your face, the explosions and things like that. The combat sequences are intense, the choreography of them as well. The throwbacks to the original trilogy, especially the first movie, is just off the chain there. I mean, all of us had our hands up. There are so many sequences where so many call signs that are being told and so many different things. It really is just absolutely just incredible. I mean, it's probably some of the most intricately designed combat sequences in any Star Wars movie, if I can be so bold to say it that way. It is seriously just everything you remember as a kid, but just done with such a layer of polish with today's technology that personally for me, when it was over, I was telling my buddy that I went with that this smokes The Force Awakens. I mean, it smokes it with a quickness. I mean, it's just really done to the pacing of it is just awesome there. Whether it's aerial combat, ground combat, the intensity. Star Wars is very gritty. It's very dirty. That was one of the things that I liked about the first movie. It felt real as opposed to the prequels being straight out, just polished, no dust, no dirt. Everything was just perfect. It just wasn't in there. But tone of the movie, just be prepared. This is literally like a saving Private Ryan type of combat that you're seeing, where the intensity, and by the time you get to these points, you have such a connection to the characters that we're going to get into in just a second here, that it really sets the tone. The thing about these new movies is that the character development, by the time you get to certain sequences, you're invested in their story, you're invested as to why things are the way they are. I don't want to give too much away, but obviously we all know the basic plot line with Jyn Erso and her father being involved with the creation of the Death Star and the Empire and things like that. So you don't really know where some of the loyalties lie and what happens. And eventually, a group bands together to do this pretty much a Hail Mary type of event to try and grab these Death Star plans in there. But character development, also, like I said, primo. And that's the thing, is the character development of this series so far has been really deep. And this movie, just out of nowhere, just probably has some of the best character development out there, with the exception of maybe one thing, which with a character named Bodhi, which some of the motivations you don't really know why he does what he does, and that's all I'm going to say on it there. But the acting is done well. It is seriously just off the chart in terms of just the intensity. You can feel the emotion. You can feel when the dialogue is spoken. It's not stilted dialogue. This is not episode 1, 2, and 3. If you never see any other Star Wars movie, but except the newer ones, this is the movie you want to start with, because this one is really mostly closely tied to episode 4, A New Hope, and it really brings a lot of things home and actually really adds a layer of some future things, which is pretty amazing. So character development primo. You've got the depth of battle, which is insane. This is not necessarily a kid's movie. I'm going to tell you right now, there's no blood, there's nothing like that, but the intensity of what you see on screen and what happens, this is straight out like Empire Strikes Back insane. I mean, it really is just hardcore, and it has to be because of the subject matter. I mean, the events in this film are going to pretty much dictate what's going to happen 35 plus years of history going forward from this point. So everything right now is pretty much, when you're watching Rogue One, is prelude to what's going to be coming. And that's just the crazy feeling when you're watching it, because we all know how the story ends, but to get you from A to Z at the very end is really an incredibly crafted piece of screenwriting here, which is, I was just literally shocked by how polished it was. I mean, there's nothing I could really say horribly bad about this film at all. I mean, seriously, I mean, I'm still shocked at just the overall quality of what it was and just the experience of it. And I am so glad that I've got some water right now, because I am going off ridiculous right now. And I'll get into the chat in just a second. I see you guys are jumping in here right now. Let's go into just a little bit of the characters, and we'll get into just some of the basic stuff. We'll talk about Vader, and then I'll wrap this up with just my overall feeling. But I think you can kind of tell what I'm going to give this film right there. But K2SO, he is definitely the anti-C3PO. He is one of the best parts of the film. Anything that you may have read, if you're trying not to spoil this film for yourself, just know that when you go into it, this character is just awesomely designed. It's a simple yet, an impressive design when you see the animation, but the overall just design of just the way that the movement and just everything about this character, whether it's a little bit of the comic relief, a little bit of the intensity, because he is a reprogrammed Imperial droid. It really is pretty awesome. So great sequences, great interactions between Felicity Jones's character, Jyn Erso, and K2SO. There's a lot of that. And the thing is, the banter and a little bit of the comedy they have, it happens when it needs to happen to lift some of the levity of what you're going to see. And it's not just thrown in just for the kids, just for it to be, the family-friendly Star Wars, family-friendly Star Wars film. It really is, it's there for a reason. So, like I said, everything has weight. And by the end of the film, with these characters, you're going to feel the weight of everything that you went through with them. K2SO is definitely part of the reason for that, which is pretty awesome. Let's see. I would say Ben Mendelsohn, who plays Director Krennic, is perfectly cast. If you guys are fans of a show called Bloodline on Showtime, he actually plays Danny. He was actually really, really fantastic. The intensity that he brings to the role is just off the chart. He really does a very, very great job of just pushing the Empire's agenda forward, but he has his own aspirations that he looks for in others, including Vader and a few of others, and that's all I'm going to say on that. But it really is just very well cast, just the overall design of his character and his motivations, and the fact that he's tied with Galen Erso in terms of just, the two of them working on the Death Star and that type of thing. It really, really worked very well. And just to see him walking amongst the Death Troopers is off the chain. That's all I have to say. The sequences that you've seen in the trailers right there, those are just badass troopers. I mean, they look amazing. So really, really awesome job there. Let me touch on Vader, obviously, because that's a lot of people are curious to know is, how is Vader going to be in this movie? Is he going to deliver that intensity, or how is his role in the film? He's not in it a lot, but when he is in it, it seriously counts. There's sequences, interactions where when you see him on the screen for the first time, I think since, I want to say maybe Empire Strikes Back, because even in Return of the Jedi, he seemed a little neutered, if I can say that. And I'm not even going to talk about the prequels, really, because that really is what it is. Everyone was looking forward to getting to Episode 3, because, that's really what we wanted to see, is how they were going to connect it to A New Hope. Trash those movies. This is the movie that connects you to A New Hope, and he does it in a way that is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But I'm going to tell you right now, ever since I was a kid, and like most of you guys, Vader has always been a very imposing figure on the screen. I mean, it's iconic, the helmet and everything like that. And if you look at my little Peep guy right over here, he's honoring him right over here. It's seriously, just the intensity of that character on the screen is awesome. And there's never been really a villain to really come out really since then to really deliver that type of thing. There's a lot of other genres of films that have iconic villain characters, the Joker and Batman and a few others. Obviously, I can go on and on with that, but I'm not. But Vader himself in this movie, for the first time since maybe Empire Strikes Back, feels scary. The fear and the scariness that you actually felt from Darth Vader in The Empire Strikes Back, and maybe even just the original Star Wars also, the first time you see him, when he's choking people with the Force and the dark side, there is just an insane amount of fear when he's on the screen, and his interactions of who he's talking with, just to hear the voice. It's James Earl Jones who did the voice for this film, and it really is just crazy. It really is just crazy to see him do his thing. It really is. By the end of the film, I think a lot of people are going to see Vader in a different way, but let's just say the intensity of the character, especially towards the end, is something that was missing, I think, from a lot of the other films that have had him in it, really. I mean, The Return of the Jedi was pretty much like, the fallen dad, and he's trying to do the right thing, but he's conflicted, that type of thing. But in this movie, I mean, it doesn't take long very much after Episode 3, in terms of that was actually my favorite prequel of all of them, obviously, because of the connection there. Aside from a few fun things that happen throughout the prequels, they are what they are, and that's pretty much, the way that it'll always be. But for this film, this really is the prequel to the Star Wars saga that picks up at a pretty decent amount of time after Episode 3, but just enough before getting into the original Episode 4. But Vader in this film is scary. I'm going to tell you, he's the imposing figure that he is. He's played by, I want to say, they hired a 6'7" actor to play the physical form of him. I don't want to say if it's a UFC fighter. It's somebody who's basically, he's obviously a huge guy. But the voice itself is James Earl Jones. The dialogue is awesome. It touches all the right notes, all the things that you've seen in terms of the trailers, which there is so much more, obviously, because they're saving it for the film. But I got to tell you, it really is just the rage of the character, which is just insane. I really don't want to say too more because I don't want to spoil anything, but just know that Darth Vader is the reason why people fear him in the galaxy. You're gonna see why he's feared pretty much in the galaxy, but it really is just the art design and the original look of him, the motivations, and just the interactions with these new characters who you've never seen before, who could add something to the whole Star Wars universe is really something great to see. Let's touch on the Death Star for just a bit here, because the Death Star actually is obviously a main center point of the film because of what it circles around naturally here. By the point that we see in this film with the dish being put in, with the beams come out there to blow away planets and everything like that, they've just begun to see what this thing is capable of. So there's basically a mad dash to finish the project and get it going, and then that's kind of the gist of the rebels trying to, before anything else happens and they see this, they've heard inklings of this thing going on. The rebels are banding together. It really feels like an underground type of film where it's like you're going up against, David and Goliath. Is David really going to be able to slay Goliath? And that's really the feeling, the weight of what happens here. There's everything that happens. There's a cause and a reaction, and then there's consequence for those reactions, and it's done very well. Special effects wise, obviously, we just touched on early on in the beginning there. You already know it is what it is. And yes, I'm seeing actually PNR comp guy Spencer Wilding is Vader, definitely. And he's a very imposing figure. I'm telling you, the design of Vader in this one, from the walk to the mannerisms to the hands holding up, it's Darth Vader as you know from the original movies. And it's awesome, especially the first two. It's just the attention to detail is crazy. So special effects, incredible. High water benchmark in terms of aerial combat, space combat. Nothing too crazy over the top, although the swarms of the TIE fighters and including some of the new vehicles and things like that too, things that predate the original movies, which you'll see the very beginnings of the AT-AT walkers, which you see in the trailer. The TIE fighters with the kind of like the unifighters, I guess I'm calling them there, with that wing, the one wing. But there are just shades of things from Return of the Jedi, shades of the ATSTs that you've seen in the trailers as well. Just so much fanboy fan service, I should say, that it really is just, there's so much to look at. The Easter eggs in this film, they're there without the sake of just kind of spoiling the film and making sure that it's just there just for the sake of being there. There are reasons for them to be there, whether if they're in a marketplace that's very similar to Mos Eisley, or if you're down in Tatooine and you're at a market, you may run into some things, you may see things in the background. It's a film that you're going to have to see probably at least 2-3 times to really take it all in. So really, it really just comes down to just, how big of a Star Wars fan are you to really kind of pick out all of it there. You can bet the internet's going to be littered with websites trying to point out every little thing that's in this movie. But let's just say everything is done to respect the canon, but it's also done very subtly, so it's not like in your face like it needs to be. There are a couple of sequences that are in your face like that, but it's fun. It's really fun to see. One thing that I do want to touch on, because I know that I've seen some casual reviews, and I've been trying not to read anything there because I don't want anything spoiled. But naturally, with this film taking place predating the 1977 film, there are going to be characters, obviously since it's so close to Episode 4, that you'd think that you would see. And fortunately, you do see a few. I'm not going to say which ones, but they're done in a way that probably is the most state-of-the-art version to really, the film like this probably couldn't be done 10, 15 years ago in the way that they're doing it in this film. So just keep in mind that if you're a fan of Star Wars, if you're a fan of the canon, if you're a fan of anything related to Star Wars to some degree, you're going to find something to like about this film just because of the throwback to a bygone era of a film that came out that transformed cinematic landscape. It really is just, like I said, it's an onus to fans, it's an onus to people that just love the genre, and obviously just for a space opera, which is essentially a family tragedy. That's pretty much what Star Wars is, the space opera with a family tragedy flown in the mix. Skywalker people are just screwing up the galaxy as far as I'm concerned. This is just the beginnings of all that, which is just, it's fantastic to see. So let's just see, if we were going to rate this right now, what do you guys think we should rate this film? As I'm checking out here, Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. This film is definitely up there with The Empire Strikes Back, without a doubt. It really is that type of dark film. Like I said, the main thing that's going to influence my review thinking about this, should I write some things down, some things I wanted to touch upon? I just kind of wanted to make this as raw as possible. Just my general thoughts right off the top of my head. Everything I'm doing right now is not prepared. It's just pretty much just how I feel. I can tell you, sitting after the film, waiting for the credits to finish, at the very end, was there going to be like a little stinger at the end? Even though Lucasfilm never does things like that, I'm glad there is nothing at the end of the credits, so I'm not spoiling anything for you there. If you decide to stay, it's because you've been blown away already, and the music and everything like that is just, you're just enjoying it. So no, definitely, you don't have to worry about anything at the end of the credits. But I can tell you, in terms of a rating for this one, it really is pretty much the perfect bookend, I think, to the current versions of our Star Wars movies that we have nowadays now. I mean, I personally thought that it was as close as you can be to a perfect beginning for a saga. So if you have like a really successful franchise, as Star Wars is, what could you possibly do? And George Lucas tried this back in 1999 by doing episode 1, 2, and 3, obviously, because we needed to fill in those gaps, and it was time to do it. I think long overdue. But considering how long he waited, if this type of film was made then, without the type of technology that we have now, I don't think the intensity would be there as much because of just how far we've come in the filmmaking process to make these types of films. But I do think that because of this movie coming out now, because of the resurgence of Star Wars now, and just the overall pop culture phenomenon that it's become, that's really what elevates the game. So when you have the fanboys that grew up on Star Wars back in the 80s creating the brand new versions of Star Wars now under the Disney banner, even though it is still Lucasfilm, this does not feel like a Disney movie, and it shouldn't. It's a Lucasfilm created product made by people who love the franchise. So personally for me, I really feel this is literally a 10 plus film. I mean, it is. I mean, there's very little wrong that you can really find with it there. Whatever people may nitpick on in terms of, some of the little things in there, whether it be a little minor character development, like I mentioned earlier on in the beginning, there's only so much that you can do. And with a runtime over 2 hours plus, it really gets the job done, and it's satisfying. That's the biggest thing. For you guys, for all of us actually, waiting for the next episode, let me just tell you, for episode 8 coming next Christmas, this really satisfies just the stuff in between. That's the whole purpose of these films, actually, to keep the saga moving naturally and to keep it profitable, to keep it going, but also to fill in some of the gaps and really expand out the story and basically service the fans who have been, pretty much keeping Lucasfilm and now Disney in business with these things here. So by far, this film literally, for Gareth Edwards' first Star Wars film, hopefully he does another. I know that in interviews he said he doesn't want to kind of take it over completely, and they've asked him, would you be interested in doing another Star Wars film? He wants everybody to get involved with it. I would love to see him do something else, Star Wars related, whether it's some type of project, maybe helping out with some of the future video game content, narration, direction of some of those things. But just a fantastic film. Just a fantastic film. I mean, that's the last 10 to 15 minutes of the film. I'll just touch on just a little bit of that just to round out this here, and then we'll jump into the chat. It is so mind-numbing. Just the words that keep popping into my head are intensity, mind-numbing, emotional, just everything about the film by the end of it there, but just the combat sequences that feel, the explosions, I mean, just the depth of everything that's going on. You really feel like you are in it. This is not just cheesy little action figure play-by, like in the past of just very generically just trying to be funny with little blasters and stuff like that. This is not episode 1. It's none of those types of things. There is real things at stake here, and they really make the intensity come out in full force. I mean, you feel it. I mean, you literally feel it. Even if you're a Star Wars fan in passing, you will feel the intensity of what's going on in here, especially with Jyn Erso, her dad, and that whole dynamic there, which a lot of the previews have alluded to. So much stuff there. And again, the fan service, the callback to the original trilogy, of course, there. So, fortunately, there are little things that shade back to or harken back to the prequels, which they have to, which is kind of nice. You guys have already seen probably in the previews there that Jimmy Smits, who plays Senator Organa, Senator Organa is in this. So naturally, from Alderaan, there is so much of these little nuggets of things to connect it there, which it's just awesome. So guys, 10 plus off the chart easily. I would not recommend getting the first version of this on Blu-ray when it comes out. Chances are the 3D version of this is usually going to be a year or so later. Star Wars The Force Awakens 3D came out literally, I guess, about a month ago. I waited the whole year to pick that one up because I was waiting for that version of it there. So when this does go on home video, and chances are you guys are going to see this a few times before it leaves the theaters, this thing is going to be around for a bit. It's going to have some legs. It's going to have massive opening, and the word of mouth on this is already off the chart. I mean, just everyone is just literally spooging over this film right now because of how well it's made. Just aside from the Star Wars name and what it's attached to, it's the way that it's done, and just because it's using familiar story beats, it's just awesome that way. But wait for the collector's edition for this to come out. You really need to see this in IMAX 3D. Nothing against the smaller screens. It's still going to be fantastic. It's a fantastic film. But when you can see it on the biggest screen on the planet with the best sound and with a 3D that's done so well, the experience is well worth it there. Whatever it may cost, 19, 20 bucks a ticket, whatever it is highly worth the entertainment value because you're getting everything from special effects to story to legacy to Star Wars universe, the whole canon. I mean, start basically the very beginnings of all the stuff that you are probably very curious about, from that opening crawl to episode 4, talking about the rebels stealing the Death Star plans. It's just so amazing to see literally 3 little sentences or 3 little parts of a sentence become the film that it is. And when you have just the intensity of Darth Vader back on the screen and the way that he should have been portrayed naturally as the original trilogy went on, aside from the Return of the Jedi being just a redemption story, it really is just awesome to see. And the fact that James Earl Jones is still, doing his thing also on top of it to voice it, he's given some great lines and some great dialogue. That's all I have to say. It's just very, very hardcore. So guys, 10 plus, I think you can kind of tell that this was going to be it there. So I am definitely part of the Rebel Alliance right here with the Rogue One shirt. So yeah, definitely rocking the support for Star Wars. I'm a huge, huge fan. I was definitely looking forward to doing this impromptu live cast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the review of what I had to say about Rogue, and I really can't see it getting anything less than a 9 from most people that are just casually talking about this right now. So, I didn't expect to go almost about a half hour talking about this here, just kind of going off in different ways, but I think I covered pretty much everything I was thinking I was going to discuss. If there's anything else that you think I missed or anything else that you don't agree with, or if you do agree with, once the broadcast goes on replay here shortly after, and about an hour after this ends, drop those comments down below and definitely check it out. So with that, this is ENK closing out the first part of the live stream, giving you my thoughts on Rogue One, a Star Wars story, easily worth your time. It is just bar none the movie to see this weekend, and repeat viewings are required to really take it all in. There is just so much on the screen. IMAX 3D, the way to go, without a doubt. If you guys haven't already, definitely like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hit that little bell next to my channel name down below so you can be notified as new reviews drop. And of course, peepthisoutreviews.com. Check me out over there. Aside from keeping in touch on social media that you'll find all the links for down below. And as always, this is ENK. You know how we do it, guys. This is Peep This Out. Stay frosty.